It's 2 o'clock, so we'll get started. In keeping with the new charter, the town manager shall hold hearings with each department on the proposed budget. The purpose of this meeting today is the second hearing to hear from other departments, providing a brief overview of their proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Today's proceeding is in addition to a series of one-on-ones that have been held with department heads and the town manager to review the budget and identify opportunities for modification. After today, the next step in the budget process will be later in February with presentation of the town manager's recommended budget to the town council. Our first hearing was on January 23rd. Today is the last hearing date. It is being televised for the public's benefit, so we have seats wired up here for your presentation. First department up is the library. Give us a quick overview of the library budget.
I am prepared. My name is Lynn Heidick, and I function as the assistant director. You've talked to Mary Beth Green, who's on vacation. The library budget is predicated on some wonderful cost-saving features this coming into the next fiscal year. We are going to see personnel costs that are $8,500 less due to staffing changes and not hiring and replacing a full-time employee, replacing that person with a part-timer. Right now, last year the library presented a budget of $767,636 and was told that funding was going to stay flat. So the budget from the year before was $759,820, a deficit of $7,816. The library put in some operational funds to make the budget of $7,618 to cover that cost, so that we operated the cost to operate the budget last year was $767,636. The proposed budget is a 1.2% increase. We are asking for requesting from the town $169,246. As Mary Beth Green has explained to you, part of our funding comes from the Henry Carter Hall Trust. It's a trust that we don't own. It's owned by Essex Savings Bank, and we have the maximum allowance that is fiscally appointed of $72,000 or $12,000 a month, $6,000 a month. That comes in to offset the operating budget. Let's see, what other? We have a state grant of $10,000, library fees coming in from our programming and so on at $10,000, fundraising of $45,000, investment income of $3,700. Our total income is $140,700 that comes into the operational budget. Do you have questions about the library setup? We're unique, as Mary Beth has explained to you, in terms of other libraries that are totally municipal.
Yeah, no, I've been over the budget with the librarian. It appears as if the budget, before you get into the amount of town subsidy, your personnel expense is less than it was last year.
Correct.
Your operating expense then comes in less than it was last year. The difference in terms of creating the appearance of an increase on the town side is the inability to dip into your other means in order to subsidize operations, which results in an increased tax subsidy for the library program.
Okay, thank you.
Next up will be police chief doing communications, police, and animal control.
Good afternoon. As you stated, I am under the auspices of the Police Commission. I'm tasked with the appropriation of 3 budgets: the police department, the communications center, and the municipal animal control. All of these budgets you'll find, I think, are very lean this year. We produce zero-based budgeting formulary when we put our budgets together. I'll start with the police, as that is the largest one that we have. Overall, the increase for this year over last fiscal year is $68,546, or 2.4%. Of that increase, 47% are due to contractual increases in the police labor contract. The remaining 53% is earmarked for overtime, recruitment costs, and one piece of investigative equipment. Our projection this year is that we will probably replace 3 personnel due to retirements in 2020. And then one piece of investigative equipment was $5,000. So the police budget sits about as flat as we can possibly get it. There's no big asks in there. This is basically a maintenance budget to continue us on. Any questions on that? If not, I will proceed to the communications budget. The communications budget is, the communications center is responsible for the reception of all 911 calls and the dispatch of all public safety. That's police, fire, and EMS. So that's a joint responsibility that we share with the fire department. I do prepare the budget for them, but take in their needs as well. This budget does see an overall increase over last fiscal year of $56,758, or a 9.5% increase. And that's a little bit, I know it's a big number to take in, but I think I need to explain to you, Mr. Kilduff, in that the previous year's budget was set, I think, with unrealistic numbers based upon our data projections on the costs and the staffing model that is currently in place per the labor agreement with the comms union. I was only given $70,000 for overtime in last year's budget when I requested $85,000. Also, I have some part-time employees, one of which we lost last year, so I'm down to 1 part-time employee. You can only work 1 shift per week, and we're training 2 others now, but that also was cut in half, the part-time figure for the budget. So the way the staffing model works is that every single week we start out, there's 5 open shifts. If I staff those, that's with no one taking any time off at all. If those are staffed by our full-time employees, that cost alone is $84,500. So as you can see, some might be offset by, that's a fixed cost. It's not, that's with no one taking any accumulated time off, no sick time, no vacation time, comp time, none of that occurs. That cost is there. So $70,000 was never going to make it. So this year's budget request goes back to realistic budget request on the data that we have based on our projections. And just to give you a quick rundown of 2017, overtime costs in the comm center was $94,651. I was able to get it up to full-time staffing and have a full staff in 2018, and we were able to control the cost at $79,401. I lost a full-time and a part-time dispatcher for the 2019 year, and our cost for 2019 was $106,722. So at $70,000, we're not going to make the mark. So that is the entire increase that we see are those 2 items, both part-time salary and a proper overtime request. The other increase that you see is $11,862. That is a 3% increase on the cost of service contracts. Motorola being the largest of those, that's about $140,000 per year, but that covers the entire town's radio communications and repairs. So that's fire, EMS, DPW as well, and police, obviously.
So is it fair to say that your overtime account is always going to have to be high, given the fact that you've got a structural problem?
Under the current staffing model, yes. The comms union is due for contract negotiation this year, and I think we need to look at the staffing model and try and control those costs and figure out the way it is. But under current staffing, that's always going to be a fixed cost.
And you've never done it on 70,000 in recent times.
Not in the 4 years I've been here. Like I said, when I had a full staff, I was able to control it to a point, and it was at about 80,000. So, but things being as they were, the governing bodies decided those were the numbers that they were going to give us. And I know I will already have to come back to you for the overtime line for this current fiscal year. We're not going to make it. Okay, last one is animal control, a very small budget. Honestly, I believe it probably could be incorporated into the police budget, but this is the way it's prepared. The overall increase for this year is $1,156, or a 2% increase over last fiscal year. Increases are reflective of full and part-time salary lines. We do have an opportunity here to reduce the net budget cost. We could be 1% lower than current fiscal year, depending on how we would like to rework the payment schedule for the municipalities that are participating in the regional animal control facility. I believe there's enough money in there that we could probably not pay into that fund this year and move for quite a while with it, but that's going to have to be unilaterally for the 3 participating municipalities, Westbrook, Madison, and us. And if we do that, I think there's plenty of money to operate the facility, and we could just remove that line item, so we would come in with a net reduction of 1%. So it'd be 1% less than current fiscal year if you decide to do that, or any portion thereof, we would make adjustments and see a reduction. That's it. As always, we're available for any further questions should you need them.
Next up is civil preparedness.
I have a relatively small budget that's remained flat, consisting of 3 line items. The first, salary for $7,500, which is a $5,000 stipend to the emergency management director, and $2,500 that can be used to pay for an emergency public safety workforce in case of emergencies. Training is $3,000. That is to bring training on site or to provide training off site to emergency personnel. Could be anybody in the emergency management, fire, or police. And general supplies are binders, books, and other small supplies that do not reach the minimum for capital expenditure that we may purchase throughout the year. It is also used for, in case of emergency, providing food, water, or sheltering needs during a natural disaster or any other emergency. For a total budget of $15,500.
Next is water and hydrants. This is a formula-based budget, which basically is driven by the water company. It's a formula based on the number of hydrants and linear feet of pipe. The number is delivered to us by Connecticut Water. There isn't really much flexibility to control the cost because it is a utility expense. Following that is street lighting. The budget is proposed to remain the same as it was last year. One item for note, not necessarily for this fiscal year, but for next fiscal year, this is the last year of the payment for the conversion over to LED streetlights. So there should be a reduction here next year. After that is water pollution control. And I guess that's me too. So water pollution control proposed to reduce compared to the year prior. You've got the full-time salary line item for a clerk. That position is currently vacant, so the salary line item is reduced, assuming a new hire at the first step in the union contract. Other expenses include hiring a consulting engineer to assist the commission. That's proposed to remain flat. Water testing is spread across 3 line items, and between the 3 line items is basically flat. The other supplies are relatively small, and the only other item of note in the budget is $7,000 for the pump-out boat, which is shared with the Cedar Island Marina. Other times I've seen this included in the Regional Health District budget, but it's not in the Regional Health District budget, it's here. But the budget generally is proposed to decrease compared to the year prior. That takes us to Park and Rec.
Good afternoon, I'm Bill Potter, Director of Park and Rec. Traditionally, our budget has been very reasonable. We've always been commended for operating our department with a very lean budget. This year, we do have some increases, primarily in R&M, basically because I am projecting that we are going to have some major repairs to do at some of the equipment down at the beach, the playscape, and also at Indian River. So we did ask for a substantial increase in R&M, approximately 18,000 more. The current budget is 18,500, so that'll put us up over 25,000 additional in that. All my other line items, we maintain fairly close to what they were last year. Overtime, I dropped down by $500. Seasonal help, it's always very difficult to get seasonal help based on salaries. I would like to say that we're in line with other towns. In fact, other towns actually have increased their salaries to come up so that they can fully staff their beach, their waterfront in particular. So we had a nominal increase in my seasonal staff. That was up around $2,000. Based on that, that's pretty much all the increases other than the contractual myself, which is a union position, and my full-time administrative assistant, which is a union position as well. The other year-round permanent positions, which would be the clerk in the office, which is part-time, and my maintenance guy, which is part-time. I recommended at 2%, but that is entirely up to our town manager and town council to decide on what that increase will be. Bottom line, I'd like to say that we do generate over $20,000 in revenue on beach receipts last year, and we're looking forward to maintaining that, if not more, this year. Other than that, unless there's any specific questions, I'm pretty well good.
Okay with the budget. One item I would let you know that you've got in here the cost for your copier, which is actually in the IT budget.
Okay.
So it's
Oh, so that goes away.
yeah, so I'll be
Okay.
pulling it out of this budget.
So that comes out of the R&M. Thank you.
It's in IT. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Next is Harbor Commission.
All right. Good afternoon. Clinton Harbor Management Commission's budget is almost entirely based on salaries. Any kind of repair work or capital improvements that go on down at the dock or in the harbor area are all going to be put toward the Department of Public Works. So with that in mind, we have a slight increase, and that's based mainly on the increase in minimum wage for our summertime workers. I'd like to note that we are one of the only commissions that actually has a net income to the town. We bring in approximately, well, for 2019, we brought in approximately $123,000. That's through slip rentals, transients, and ramp fees. And this year, we don't see a difference in that. Probably a little bit of an increase because we've expanded some of the hours. So the longer hours we have at the ramp, the more we can collect at the ramp. So that's it.
Next is the Shellfish Commission, which Heather will be doing. Shellfish Commission is proposed at $18,000, which is a slight increase over the year prior. The largest increase here is for buying a storage trailer in order to have the commission's materials portable. The other line items are in line with what's been spent in prior years, utilizing a boat, providing for education, and testing of shellfish coming out of the various beds that are available. The Commission has been active in seeding and would like to continue to do so in the future year to bring another recreational clam fishing bed online in the future. And that's basically it. Next would be health. That's B2. Health is the pass-through amount from the regional health district. It's currently proposed to remain flat. There's no change from the year prior. That takes us to general government.
General government is, the biggest item in there is the contingency, which is budgeted right now to be the same as it has been in prior years. The other two large items in there are the estuary transit, which is the bus, and the estuary council for the seniors. And those are both not donation requests, but they're actual calculations and letters that we received from them. That's basically the general makeup of the admin. Would you like me to continue with the other?
Yeah, it looks like there's an addition this year for the Historic District Commission.
We had 4 requests that were not in the budget in the prior years. One of them was from the Historic District Commission. And we received that letter from them, and they want some additional, it's like mailing costs and some stationery supplies and such things like that. That's a $2,900 donation. We received some charitable organizations, 3 of them that also had requested donations for much, which we have not contributed to in the past. Those are new items, though.
The Historic District Commission isn't like one of those. It's a town body, so there's an expense to the town body.
Correct.
Other general government?
Other general government, the 87% of this budget, it's about a $5.96 million budget. The 87% of it is the insurances for the town, which include the health insurance, the employer payroll taxes, which is the FICA and the Medicare, as well as the pensions for the town employees, including the police and the fire and workers' comp. Those 4 items make up about 87% of that number. The other items in this budget are the utilities, which is the electric and the water, and the legal expenses are also, which are from all the other departments, have been pulled into this one line item, so the legal costs are also in this budget. And this also includes accounting and audit services. And the new item this year are the costs for the Pearson school that are to be borne by the town. That's it.
Quickly go over debt, too.
You want me to go over that too? Okay.
It is what it is. We have no choice but to pay it.
Correct. The debt payments are about $5 million annually. That's what about averages, and they're pretty much the same for the fiscal year 21 budget. $2 million of that's on the town side, $3 million of that's on the school side. The town debt went up $136,000. The Board of Ed went down slightly by $50,000. And it basically includes all the same debt that we've had last year. The new addition is we just did a new bonding and note. We're just closing on it shortly, next week actually. And those debt costs are included in this too.
And debt includes the equipment we've been lease purchasing instead of purchasing outright.
Correct. Includes all the lease payments for that too as well. Okay.
And that would be it for operating budgets. Thank you for your input and presentations. Thank you for working with me during the one-on-ones. The budget will be presented to the town council the evening of February 11th, which will merge the town budget with the Board of Education budget into the town manager's recommended budget. The town council will have 4 workshops following later in February to review the budgets with the manager and discuss priorities and make further modifications to the budget as need be before rolling out to a larger public process. So that's it. Thank you all very much.